Hi, sorry for the delay. I was having some technical issues. So I'll be able to start now. I think everyone can hear me. Let me just check something. Right. Hello everyone. Thanks for attending this SPL Tech webinar. In this webinar, we will show you how you can easily set up and launch your WordPress website on the Google Cloud Platform. Introductions first. Some of you might know me, but my name is Armindo Cachada. I'm the CEO of SPL Tech. We are a boutique consultancy. We specialize in DevOps on the cloud and on premises. I personally have over 16 years of experience in software development. I'm DevOps. Out of work, I like to do gardening. I have hobbies, for instance, 3D printing. That's one of my passions recently. I also like to play with machine learning, and to be honest, I like to learn new things all the time. Okay, so today for our agenda, something went wrong. Sorry, I don't know how the screen went. Okay, in our agenda today, we will just briefly go through what the Google Cloud Platform is. I'll try and give you an idea of the services, the main ones that we're going to use today. I'll talk about it. I'll show you how you can set up your own account in the Google Cloud Platform if you haven't had a chance to register yet. And you know what? If you haven't, you get $300 US free to spend. Just beware, you have to give your credit card number. Then I'll show you how you can launch your WordPress instance very quickly and very easily using the marketplace. I'll go through some of the small configuration you'll have to do to get your website secure and ready to go. And at the end, I'll just show you as well how you can actually monitor your website for free as well. You can actually, that's one of the issues that most people have, is you launch your website, it's running on a server and it goes down and you don't know what happened to it. So you can actually set up a quick monitoring alert to inform you when something goes wrong. Simple. And then I'll try to answer any questions you might have. So bear with me, I will only look at all the questions at the end of the presentation. And if I can't answer today, I'll try and get back to you. Okay, right. So first thing, definition. This is always the hard part. So what is the Google Cloud Platform? Okay, it's a public cloud and runs in Google's data centers, right? They have a huge infrastructure everywhere, all over the world, where they actually run their Google search and all their websites. So basically what they're doing, they are marketing their cloud. So we as a customer can use it for ourselves. And we're just paying a fraction of the cost of what they actually pay for it, right? So we don't have the upfront cost. So there's so many things in the Google Cloud. The obvious one, which we're going to use today, the simplest type of service, that's how Amazon started, for instance, is infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service is provided in this case by the compute engine, which I'll show you. And in the compute engine, you can launch small VMs, medium VMs, and huge VMs. And you pay per hour. You get some discounts as well for continuous use. Then Then another type of service that invariably you will need to use is the Google Cloud Storage. There's different types of Google Cloud Storage depending on the type of application you have. I'll just talk about the two main ones. The ones we're going to use today are persistent disks. Persistent disks are disks that are attached to a VM and allow them to boot. Persistent disk will have all the files needed to run the OS, and also they will have the files that you need to have for your own application. These are persistent, but they are attached to your VM. Then you have another type of storage, and this storage is a distributed file system called bucket storage. Bucket storage will be typically used whenever you need to share files across different VMs you might have, or you might need to serve some images or videos on the internet. And what you typically want to have is you'll typically want to use bucket storage because it's more efficient, it's cheaper, and it's better for this type of applications. Then, without going through all the different services that Google Cloud provides, I'm just going to mention Google App Engine, which is a type of platform as a service offering whereby your application doesn't actually run directly on a VM. Your application is actually running in Google's infrastructure, and it's scalable. It runs inside a container, and basically by having this type of setup, you don't have to worry about the underlying configuration of your VMs or anything like that, and you don't have to think too hard about how much disk space or how much CPUs or how much memory you're going to need to be able to serve the clients you have. This type of offering is scalable, so you just write your code, you deploy it, and then you don't have to worry too much, to be honest, unless your application gets really popular and you might have a big bill, but that's one of the downsides. Right, another service that we're going to use today is networking as a service. Networking as a service is important. Well, one of the things that we're going to use today is we're going to actually create a static IP that will allocate to our VM. Networking as a service also allows you to create security groups, which allows you to configure network configuration, firewall configuration, and also you can create your own virtual private cloud. And that's it for now, right? So I'm going to start with, I'm just going to show you how to sign up to the Google Cloud Platform. Because I'm already signed up, I'm going to open an incognito window. So it's very simple. You click on this link here. You'll need a Google account, or you can create one here. And once you go through that process of creating your Google account, then you'll have to enter your credit card details so Google can validate if you are a real customer. And after you do that, then you'll be given access to the Google Cloud, and you'll be allocated $300 US. So you can try out and without spending too much money. Right, so gone through that. It's not hard, so that's why I'm not actually going to try and sign up another account. Right, so let's go to the, let's access my own instance of the Google Cloud, my own account. So you can see I've already created the project. If you want to create a project, if you don't have one, then this left hand side is going to be your best friend. You'll have lots of services here. You can see a lot of stuff here. So compute engine is the one we need today. So I'm going to the compute engine and I'm going to create my first VM. Right. At this stage, right, I have two options. I can create a VM with a disk which has an OS, and I can set up everything, you know, for WordPress. I can install Nginx, I can install the PHP, and so on, right? And that's going to take me quite a while to do, and I wouldn't have enough time to do that today. The other option is actually, instead of just starting from scratch with an empty VM, I'm just going to use the marketplace. The marketplace, it's not just, it doesn't mean it's always going to cost money, right? So in the marketplace, you'll find lots of existing images created by individuals or companies. And these images will have, it's exactly what you need, in this case for WordPress, right? So there's quite a lot of images available. I'm going to do a search here. I have 39 types of VMs to, you know, VM images to try. But I actually happen to know, and I've worked with Bitnami WordPress, and I think that's the most well-documented, easy to use VM that you can use for WordPress. So I just changed the search, and I typically like to have a setup with Nginx and also with SSL certificates automatically generated. So I'm going to pick this option here. So there's a lot of description here explaining what's running inside, and more things. Okay, one important thing, right? Whenever you don't know for sure if a marketplace image is going to cost money, you can check in this section here. So you can see here that this WordPress image is free to use. So there's no usage fee. The only thing you're paying here is the actual cost of running the VM. And you can see here a discount that you get if you run your VM for the whole month rather than just spinning it up for 1 hour or 2, then you get a discount at the end of the month. So based on this estimate, I will be charged $13.61 for this VM. It's not always the exact value, because you can also get charged by the data volume that you transfer in or out, which is also specified here. So here I've picked the VM type, the image, and now I have here some options, right? My name, the name of my VM, I can just change this whatever I want. Yeah. Then I can change the zone. So as I explained before, Google has lots of data centers all over the world, and you have different options, right? You can run it in the US, which is the default, or you can run it in Europe or in Asia and so on. And why would you want to do that? It depends, right? You might want to run on your website and you know your customers or your visitors are going to be, let's say, in Australia, right? So it doesn't make much sense to try and create a server, I don't know, launch a server in the US when you know all your users coming from Australia. It's going to be slower, right? Okay, but something that you have to bear in mind, right? You might want to do it in Australia, but the cost will also change because the cost of that data center are higher. So since we're in Europe, I'm going to pick Europe. So Europe West 4A, which I believe is in the Netherlands. Okay. So other things that you can configure here is the size of your boot disk, which is the persistent disk I've mentioned before. It comes with a default of 10 gigabytes. I'm not going to change that. networking. Later on we're going to fiddle with this, but you get a network interface. You don't need much more than that. Then it comes with some default firewall configuration, so it allows you to receive HTTP requests and HTTPS requests. So that's good enough for me. And now I'm going to deploy it. So now what we are seeing is the deployment manager. The deployment manager shows me the actual process of deploying the application. Normally, anyone can actually create Bitnami, they've created a deployment scripter for this VM for WordPress, and it can run a script. It's in a YAML format, and this is very nice because I already can see here that my VM is being provisioned. I can see the password. I can see where it's actually currently situated, the image type. So this is my first point of reference, right? So once this is finished, I'll see a site URL here, and I'll know where to go. Right. So just have to wait a bit. Okay, so it's complete. So it's finished. So now I have some URLs here. So I'm going to open this up on an incognito window. You can see that I have a WordPress website, the whole page. I can try and access the WP admin, and you can see the password here, and the username is user. Right. So you can see, I'm not going to go in detail today about this, right? How you will set up your website itself. But here you will be able to just change your content as you would normally do on the WordPress website. Okay, so first things I want to do. First, I want to change this IP address, because what the compute engine does, it gives you a temporary static, no, that's not static, ephemeral IP address. This IP address may change whenever you maybe restart an instance, or maybe you have to create a new instance. So I'm going to go and change it, create a new IP address in a separate time, so I don't lose where because you can get lost here. There's so many options. So what I want to do now is access the compute engine. Okay, VPC. External IP addresses. So, as you can see, the IP address that was assigned to me is an ephemeral one. So I'm going to reserve a static address. Just going to be their name. Right, so the region, I'm going to match it to the one I picked before. That's true. And then, so what happens is, if you don't use the IP address, you actually get charged for it. But if you assign it to a VM, you don't get charged for it. So you definitely want to assign it. So I'm going to assign this IP address in the next. So I'm going back to the compute engine, VM instances. I'll click on the VM now, edit, and should be somewhere here. Networking should be under networking. Okay, so networking phase. So you can see here that I have an option to specify my IP address. So I'll click on this and then click on done. So that's it. Then save. So it takes it back. So saving. So now I have an external. Yeah, this is my new IP address. And if I go into my Wordpress website, I'll replace this. And I think I lost my user because it's at the client. Anyway, you can see that the IP address changed. So I'm not going to log in again because actually I want to do something else. Okay, so we have a static IP address, and the next step, logically, it will depend on, depending on the use case, but typically you would buy a domain name if you don't have one, or edit your domain name and point the domain name to this IP address. I'm not going to go in detail because it varies from, GoDaddy does it one way and you have other providers like names.com and so on. But the process is similar, right? You just have to put your A records pointing to this IP. And because I don't have a domain name for this website, this is just basically a tutorial. I use a cool service that allows me to transform any IP address into a domain name. It's called nip.io. So this should work, right, for my purpose, but sometimes, anyway, the point is I need a domain name to generate the SSL certificate, so that's why I'm actually using the service. So now that I have a domain name, the next step will be to actually create my, basically to generate my SSL certificate. So I have somewhere. So what I need to do first, I need to access my WordPress instance via SSH. It's quite handy in your dashboard. You can easily SSH to the machine. You don't have to worry about SSH keys and so on and so on. So I'm logged into the machine, to the VM. You can see here, just wanted to mention, there's some useful URLs here which will point you to the documentation in case you need it. Myself, I do know I've done this before, so I know exactly what I need to call to generate the SSL certificate. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. So one for me. So I have to change the IP address. So this is the domain name. So I just want to explain this script, right? This script will generate our SSL certificate using a service called Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt is a great thing for those who don't want to spend money on SSL certificates. And let's be honest, most websites don't need those expensive SSL certificates. You just have a blog or something like that. You don't want to worry about. I mean, one less expense is much better. So all I do here is make sure that configuration is correct. Okay, so this is the email address. So I just want to make it the same as the domain name. Yeah. So then it should work. So first it asks you if you want to create, just confirm if you want to create a certificate. And then asks you to accept the terms of service for Let's Encrypt. And it's now generating the certificate. What it does, like Let's Encrypt actually generates some files on your web server, and then the actual server from Let's Encrypt will try to access the files in your web server to make sure that you own the domain. And that process actually went, that's what it did just now here. So, and at the end it asks you to create a cron job, and the reason why you want to create a cron job is because the SSL certificates generated by Let's Encrypt, they expire after 3 months and you want to renew them. So it actually checks every month to renew, just in case. So now I have cron job, I have SSL certificate, I can go and test it. So let's see if it works. Okay, so here this is HTTP, so I'm going to change this to HTTPS and see if I'm lucky enough. Okay, so now the SSL certificate worked. It was generated. As you can see, this SSL certificate expires in August, which is about 3 months. And this is all you need. So okay, so I have an SSL certificate, right? But we have one issue here. I can still access the website via normal HTTP, and you don't want that to happen, right? So I'm going back to the Cloud Shell, and there's another file I need to edit, one of the nginx configuration files. So I'm going to copy and paste that because I don't remember the path. So PI. Right, so here in this section I'm going to add the redirect. Return 301. URI. Okay. So let's hope it's always dangerous to type things instead of just copy and paste. But so you get what this is doing. This is doing a permanent redirect to HTTPS. And all I have to do now is, I always do that. I forgot to use sudo, which means I can't save. Right, but no problem. I can use sudo now and it should work. I shouldn't have to worry about spacing, but I like to be typing. Okay, and now restart. There's a script that I'm going to copy and paste, which will restart NGN Express. And the redact will work. Oh, should work. Start. Okay, so that's it. I've managed to set up SSL, and now my website redirects to HTTPS. Okay, but there's a little bit more housework to do, right? And I'm going to just show the easiest one. You see this link here? This is done for you to easily reach some of the documentation, so you know what you're doing. Because some people might miss the initial deployment page, but with this, you can't miss it, right? But you don't want to have this anymore. Fear not, there's a script to remove this this manage link. And I'll just run it again on the Google Cloud Shell. And it should disable it. Right, so now refresh, no more link. Okay, so I mean, this is the rough. Well, as you can tell, it's very quick to actually just set up a WordPress website. It was very easy for me to do. I'll show you later the links for the documentation. The documentation covers a lot of use cases you might want to do as well with this website in the future. One thing you might want to access, is the database, right? And many WordPress developers like to use phpMyAdmin, which, for security reasons, is going to be disabled by default to this machine. Okay, so there's a few solutions. You could try and reverse engineering the code and try to change the IP address to one of the IP addresses you have at home to be able to access this page directly. Or you can just create an SSH tunnel, because this out of the box, this phpAdmin will only accept requests from localhost. So I'm going to do that. And this is the only time that unfortunately we have to go out of the Google Cloud Shell, because I need to create a tunnel. But in order to do that, I need to set up my own SSL certificate. My own SSH private key. To do that, I've done it before, but I'm just going to quickly do it again so you can see how easy it is. So I'm just going to type SSH keygen, and I'm going to just give it a name. Typically, you might not have any any SSH certificates, and you can just leave the default. But because I have one already, I don't want to overwrite it, so I'm going to change the path, the name. Okay. So this is my new SSH certificate name. Here you can put a passphrase if you want to make it more secure, and I recommend you to do it. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to leave it empty, and I'm going to press enter again. So I have now my SSH certificate. So I'm just going to paste I need to have the public key, because you get a private key and a public key. The private key is for yourself, and don't share it with any website or anything like that. The public key you can share with any kind of service you might want to use. So I'm going to copy it now. So engine. So I need to add it to VM again. And under SSH, you can set up your own, you can save here your public key. Yeah. Then click save. And with that, I should be able to SSH into the machine. But I'm actually just going to create a tunnel. And I have I'm just going to copy and paste the command I need for it. Which I'll have to replace with relevant values. So here I specify my key file, the one I created earlier. This one is a link to the private key. Then username, I'm going to leave it empty because I happen to have the same username on my server, on my VM, and I'm going to put IP, which should be the IP that somewhere. Where is it? Let me just get copy and paste it. Yeah, so this IP. Okay. So where I was, and this terminal, right? So with this IP, so basically this SSH command is creating locally in my computer a port called a service calling running on port 8888, and it's going to be tunneling to the server on the SSL port. I've created this server before, so I'm just going to delete it. So, yes. So now I have a tunnel. I'm going to go back into here, and let's see if I'm lucky. So I need to change this to localhost. Okay. I need to because it's just an SSL thing. I need to proceed, and it does this annoying thing where it loses the port whenever it proceeds to the actual URL, and you just start the port again and you'll be fine. So now I have access to phpMyAdmin. The username, I know it's root, which also tells you here somewhere in the documentation. And I'm going to go back to my window where I can see all the credentials I need, which is in the deployment manager. So it has this same username and password. The same password, not same username. So and now I've logged in. Okay, so this is it. Right, I'm pretty much done, but I just want to show you one last thing, right? As I mentioned before, you know, your website might be running today and tomorrow it crashes and you don't know what happened to it unless you go and check it every minute, right? But fear not, you actually can set up an alert in the Google Cloud platform to be able to keep your website under check. So let's see, there's a health check under Compute Engine, health checks, right? So I can create a health check. My first website health check. So here I can basically specify all the different, you know, in this case I want to check the SSL port. So it seems like it doesn't like spaces, so I'm going to okay, so now I can just specify the you can basically play with the settings, right? Because maybe your website went down for 1 second and the alarm will trigger, and you don't want that to happen, so you won't have a sustained downtime. So there's a threshold here. So I'm just going to leave it as default. Must be lowercase, okay. So very specific. And the great thing about this alert is that you can be notified by email, by text message, whatever you need. So it's great. Let's see if I have a Okay, so I've created my health check, and there's a bit more configuration that you can do. Like you can specify the different types of like ways you can be notified. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to check now if I have any questions. And also I have some links here that might be useful for anyone. I'm going to share this as a PDF, so you don't need to copy and paste this. I've actually created an article with the content of this presentation that you can go through step by step. And yeah, let me just check the questions and see if I have any recognizing that. So I don't see any questions, so I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you very much for attending, and have a lovely evening.